Good morning, friends. I'm off to work shortly, and I thought I'll have a quick chat with you about an issue that comes up periodically. It is about whether the best way to bring liberalism and good policies to India is by sacrificing some of the fundamentals for the sake of popularity or for the sake of practicality. And I think this issue, for example, has got two forms. And I myself have very partly, and I'll come to that shortly, sort of engaged in that. The example I'd give is there are two basic approaches to this whole thing. So some people say that, you have no choice but to join some existing political party, a major political party, and then work your way through the system to reach the point of power, and then you make a change. And indeed, it has happened in a couple of cases here and there. But most of what has happened in this kind of a situation is the compulsion that was introduced by others. For example, Narasimha Rao is definitely not the creator of reforms in India. He is basically a vehicle for those reforms. The reforms were compelled by the IMF, compelled by the fact that India had gone bankrupt. And so, all these people, Manmohan Singhs and Narasimha Rao, they're basically socialists, okay? So they have been forced to do some things by others because of the mess that they created. Now, to join a party of that sort and then to imagine that these guys are fundamentally aligned to that approach is nonsense. And we know that because of people like Rahul Gandhi. I mean, this is a dynastic party, okay? So there is no scope for anyone with any talent in these kind of parties. And people might say, okay, what about BJP? Well, BJP has exactly a totally socialist DNA. Its DNA is Deenbandhu Upadhyay, and he's 100% socialist. These kind of people have great difficulty in understanding good policy. So there are people like Nandan Nilekani, whom I've been telling many times in the past. I've told him personally, why do you even think of joining the Congress party? He in fact joined and became a candidate. And guess what? He was removed. He could not even get elected. But assuming he had got elected, do you think he could have actually implemented anything? So for people like Nandan Nilekani, my message has been very clear. Nandan, you are actually very capable as an individual, and I'd be very happy to work with people like you, but only within the framework of a liberal party. The Congress party is ultra corrupt, and I don't want to go into details about that. So that's the second aspect about these parties. So you join these parties and you know that they're fundamentally corrupt. They're corrupt at such a deep level that I cannot even describe in this short few minutes that I have with you. The experiences I've had of these parties working in the civil service, the ministers, the whole system is rotten to the core, okay? In this rotten system, you think that you are going to join and change anything? And there are people like Shashi Tharoor, who allegedly told one of my friends who had spoken with him about my articles that I'm a man in the wrong place. Well, I'm actually in the right place, and Shashi Tharoor is in the wrong place. A person who has joined the Congress party and thinks that he can do anything. First of all, I think these people are fundamentally morally flawed. Now, I don't say that about Nandan Nilekani particularly, but I do say that about people like Shashi Tharoor, because these people have joined for a very long time. They have been with these kind of parties, and they know exactly what's happening. And did they make any difference? Did they help anybody? Did they really, not the word the difference, I think I'm talking of change. You can obviously make a small difference here or there, but I think I'm talking about a fundamental change. And that's the kind of thing we simply cannot expect to do when you join these parties. And the other approach seems to be that we have to somehow, moderate our stance and work with the socialists because that is more populist. And this would be an example of where you go and start joining these farmers groups or somebody who's demanding some socialist nonsense, and then you expect that will actually somehow work because you become popular. Well, I'm sorry, but that approach is not going to work either. And I'll come to that very briefly in my case with the Ramdev experience. And I realized that we would need to potentially moderate a little bit. So this Ramdev fellow is he's a Swadeshi kind of a character. Okay, it's very difficult to explain to him good economics. He doesn't understand virtually anything. And so I had this problem. I had this conundrum. He wants to form a political party to compete against all other parties. He's willing to listen to me. He's got our agenda, the logo, etc., all on his documents. 1 lakh of these were circulated across the country. So the question for me was, should I somehow allow some minor moderation of our ideas just so that he can collect a few other become populist and do some such things? And I think at that stage I had thought that, okay, we can probably compromise a little bit, but we'll not we will not actually, we will use this as an educational process to get these people on board, and that is exactly what I did in Patanjali. For 4 days I was educating his people, essentially 100 people from all over the country, mainly his own people, and I was educating them on good policy. And I think that's the approach that I have taken. But there are some people who are trying to say that, okay, no, let's actually go with a populist approach as a primary approach, and in that case, I'm sorry, you're always going to end up with this mess that Arvind Kejriwal type person has ended up with. Either you bring out a vast socialist movement, and socialist movements are very easy to organize. Okay, so this is not that what I'm saying is that it's not a difficult job to go around doing socialism. And so my caution here for anyone who is really interested in the welfare of India is, do not, and I explicitly say this now, do not compromise the fundamentals. There is no point in doing that, because we have got the best model, the best selling proposition. We are giving the best value to the country. We just need to show them. We just need to explain it to them. And that is why I would prefer leaders like Ravikant Bharti, who are arising from the ground, who are really capable and explaining the situation very well to the local people. We need those kind of leaders. We need people who are actually connecting with the people and changing their mind. We are not here to follow existing systems. I hope my message has now been clarified and will hopefully influence a few people in their approach, because with education, by doing this job sensibly and working together as a single team, Liberal Party, you can change the country in 5 years. But if you keep doing this miscellaneous things, Shashi Tharoors and this Kejriwals, and you start doing this where you start modulating your or moderating your policies for the sake of populism, be sure that you will be totally forgotten in history. In the history of India, history of the world, you will be non-entity, you'll be useless. Do not at any cost sacrifice your fundamental clarity and goals for the country. Okay, thanks.